I want to share something very small with you people. It might be a controversy. Please, I get bashed with it sometimes, but I don't think it's such a bad thing away. This week's portion talks about a Jewish mother, which is Rachel, our mother. And when we look at women these days, right? I mean, what kind of a role they have, whatever their role is very, very important. Don't get me wrong. Very, very important. The entire Judaism depends on them. As you know, according to the Jewish law, if let's say you have a mixed marriage, men and women, if the mom is Jewish, the child is Jewish. If the mother is not Jewish, then the child is not Jewish. It's opposite of all other religions. And the main reason is because the child actually gets the form in the mother's stomach. The father mostly has a very passive role. So this is unlike Islam. I don't know what Christianity says. I grew up in an Islamic country, so I know the reasons. And I was in Iran for years. But again, Judaism goes after the mom. You see, in these days, unfortunately, many countries, a woman is basically a tool for a man. They dress the way the men like it. I don't know, they act the way the men like it. You got to do something to impress men. We are not born here to impress anybody. We're here to be ourselves. All right. The only one that we have to impress is only our future, spouse. Nobody else. But anyways, I just wanted to share one thing with you. Where do we find something very important about Rachel? As you know, Jacob had 4 wives, and his youngest wife was Rachel. On the way back from land of Haran, where he was, to land of Israel, his wife dies on the road. Rachel dies on the road. Now, anybody knows where does she get buried? Was really on no city. Nothing was around. The closest city was Bethlehem, which still exists. Now, where did Jacob bury his beloved wife, the one that he loved the most? Anybody knows? Anybody has been in Israel? He buried her in the middle of the road, middle of nowhere. Even today, there is no cities around the grave of Rachel. Nothing. You find a lot of walls because we had a lot of terrorists attacking, shooting, whatever. So they have to make a whole protection. It's very, very protected, but there's no city around. So then, actually, when Jacob was dying, the husband, so Joseph was the firstborn of Rachel. He came to the father and he complained. He said, "Listen, why did he complain? Because Jacob says, please don't bury me in Egypt. I want to go to Hebron, right, where the cave is. Bury me with my fathers." So then Joseph, the son, says, "If that's so important, why didn't you do it to my mother? If you command me now, I'm going to just carry over her body and take it to that special cave." It's a very holy place. The legend says that Adam and Eve are buried there too. Okay, we don't know exactly where it is. You have a place where Abraham is buried. You have where Isaac is buried. You have the place where Jacob is buried. Adam and Eve, we don't know. But the legend is that they were buried there too. That's why Abraham paid so much money to buy that place. So we're talking about a very, very holy place spiritually. So then Jacob says, "No, leave your mom where she is." What's the reason? So we have a story, actually. This is historical. When the first temple got destroyed, so Nebuchadnezzar, he was the king of Assyria, or actually Babylonia, I'm sorry. So he came and he took the Jews to captivity. In the future, they passed by the road where Rachel was buried. And there's a story actually in the prophets, in the book of Jeremiah. You could look it up. It says that God hears a voice in heaven. Who's crying? Rachel is crying for her children going into exile. And then he says that God tells Rachel, "You're going to have good news. Your children will come back. They will not get destroyed in exile." And actually, 70 years after being in Babylonia, they came back. So Jacob tells his son, Joseph, "The reason why I buried your mom in the middle of the road is not because I was too lazy. It's not because I was sick or anything. But God told me she should be buried there because she's going to be a help for her children." That's why, historically, whatever, she's buried there. They're not going to even move the burial place because of the help that she was for the children. What do we learn from these people? The role of our mothers, honestly. Their role is to be a great help for the children. Let me explain this a little bit better. Why is it so important to be buried in that cave? Spiritually, it's a very, what do you call it? The word is not relaxing. Spiritually, it's a very, what do you call it? I don't have a good word. Peaceful place. Everybody wants to be in a good place. A lot of people, about Jews when they die, God forbid, anybody that dies, God forbid, they want to be buried in Israel. It's a holy place, so that brings forgiveness for their souls. Seriously, there's such a legend. They pay thousands of dollars just to be buried to go to Israel. So then if somebody's in that holy place, his judgment is going to be a lot easier. It's going to go easier to paradise. But Rachel gave that up. She agreed with it before she died to be help for her children. So when they go into exile, she's going to pray for them. This is the beautiful role, honestly, that our wives have. Our sisters, when they grow up, our girls here. When you grow up, you're going to be wonderful moms. Your role is not to impress men. You're not here for anybody else. You're here for a mission that God brought you. And actually, the mothers have the greatest role in raising their children. I hope we'll all take that seriously. This is who you are. You are the makers of the future generation. And believe me, don't let anyone fool you that you're here for something else. You're wonderful. You have the power. You know, I'm who I am because of my mom and my children, or whoever they are, because of my wife. Do not forget who you are and keep your role as strong as you can. Thank you for listening, people.